Monster RX93.1 presents The Morning Rush. The Morning Rush, the country's favorite morning program on FM radio. Music, laughs, all the hot tea, and the hilarious top 10. Your hosts, Chico, Hazel, Markki, and Rica. The Morning Rush.
Monster RX93.1. We are live on Monster RX93.1, but also live on Facebook. That's facebook.com/RX931. And we have a very, very special guest for today. So you probably know him, in one aspect of his life, but he is, more than what you know him for. He is actually now on a very different journey, very surprising if you haven't been keeping up to date with what he's been doing, but he's been posting it on his social media. So, ladies and gentlemen, family and friends, let us all welcome our very special guest for this morning. We have from Survivor Cagayan and Survivor Cambodia, and now meditation practitioner and teacher, we have Spencer Bledsoe!
Wow. Such an intro. Thank you, Chico. To be here with you all on the morning rush. I got some coffee, even though it's evening here, in honor of you.
Yes,
coffee.
We are like completely
got my
on
own coffee.
Different, time zones altogether. And it's so funny. The very first time I communicated with Spencer, you know how we call PST here Philippine Standard Time? I mean, that's how we shorten our time. So when I asked Spencer, what time zone is it? And he goes PST. And I'm like, oh, perfect. It's Philippine Standard Time. And he goes, that's Pacific Standard
Pacific.
It's just like,
hello, you're forgetting about the rest of the world.
I'm sorry. I mean, that's how it worked, So I thought, oh, it's perfect. It's perfect for my time zone. But welcome, Spencer. And, okay, let's just start off the bat with this. All right, so what sort of surprised me the first time we ever communicated was that it was a different name on your email. So, you now go by a different name. I mean, you still answer to Spencer, but now you go by Reiman Bledsoe. So, is there a reason why you decided to go by Reiman as opposed to Spencer?
Yeah. So I still answer to Spencer, and Reiman's my middle name, or it was my middle name. So it was just using it as my first name instead of Spencer. But it's like the bigger family name, and I feel a lot of connection to extended family. So it makes me feel connected to them, and it's maybe fitting because I look back on Survivor and Spencer from Survivor, and it's that kid and I don't have that much in common all the time. So it's been a lot of change since then. But yes, going by Reiman these days.
Yeah. So, you went, it's sort of like a 180-degree turn. I mean, for people who got to follow you on Survivor, we all know how, for fans of the show, we know how high stress, how monkey brain it is. You're always thinking, you're always on the edge. Yeah. You're overthinking what could happen if I do this, what would happen if I do that. And then suddenly now your path is like, it's almost like the polar opposite of what your state of mind is, the chaos and that Survivor is. And then now you're actually practicing meditation and even teaching meditation. I mean, what was the impetus for this? How did you go from Survivor to meditation? Was there something very specific that happened to you?
No, nothing very specific. So it's hard to tell the story because there's so many turns and it's a very roundabout path. But really, Survivor was kind of the start of the path. You said that Survivor is like the monkey mind and always paranoid about what could go on, and that was me, right? So I saw Survivor. I saw the strategizing and people getting one over on each other. And I was like, I have to do that. I'll be so happy if I can do that and, get on this show and do so well. And it was this huge adventure, but I found out that, it didn't really bring me the happiness I expected. And it actually showed me, a lot about myself. Like I was going into it wanting to, strategize and to play the game. And not really thinking about it as an introspective journey or a journey where I would learn about myself, but that's really what it was. And so I didn't start meditating like right after Survivor or anything like that, but it was the first moments of realizing, there are things going on under the surface. There are emotional things I haven't been facing that I should start to face. And yeah, eventually found my way to meditation. Like they are kind of polar opposite, meditation and mindfulness versus Survivor, but they also, for me, were were kind of like part of the same path, because Survivor, like you go into it and you can try and put on a front or be someone else, but you end up facing yourself. You end up, with no food and no sleep, you can't help but be yourself, and you can't help but face who you are and deal with that person. And so it was the start of it.
Because,
Did you have a lot of meditative moments when you were out on the island, dealing with all these personalities? And,
oh my God,
it was very chaotic.
Actually,
I think I heard your question, Hazel. It was just that, did I have meditative moments on Survivor? Yeah, I mean, maybe some, but as you saw on the show, I had a lot of the opposite of meditative moments. I had a lot of like, something went wrong and I would like throw my buff on the ground, and I threw a lot of temper tantrums in Cagayan. And so yeah, it was like kind of seeing that made me realize that there was a need for meditation, because I knew about meditation my whole life, but when I was a teenager, I was like, this is stupid. I don't need this. So it was only, seeing the ups and downs of Survivor and seeing how hard it was to cope with that, because it's like it was this roller coaster. And the ideal in meditation is, good things happen, bad things happen, but they all pass away. And you just ride the wave and don't react too much. And my first season of Survivor was the polar opposite of that. I was just freaking out and, losing my cool. And so seeing how much I was losing my cool, I was like, geez, maybe I should do something about this. Maybe I should meditate.
The brain tribe was just too brainy.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Brain tribe.
Very smart.
sorry, I'm back. Okay.
Okay, go ahead.
No,
Rica.
I just have a question because somebody messaged me yesterday who's such a big fan of yours. I think he's watching right now, Stan. And he wanted to ask, what kind of support did the show give you after you left the show? Did they give you some sort of support, mentally or emotionally?
Yeah, they did. They have psychologists who work for the show who, before the show, they interview you and make sure that you'll be able to cope with it, as far as they can tell, right? They can't always tell. But after the show, they'll follow up and they'll do like an exit interview with you. And so, yeah, like that was actually really helpful. Like after the show, I was talking to the psychologist and talking about like these weird things that happened on the show where, weird emotions that would just come out of nowhere, and like repressed memories would come up, and it like brought up stuff psychologically. Yeah. And so, yeah, like some people get off the show and they're fine, and they just check in with the psychologist and that's that. But for me, like I really got a lot out of talking to her and telling her what I'm going through, and yeah, that was like, I think if I hadn't talked to the psychologist, I might not have, realized the insight that was there. Because I think like Survivor is what you make it. And most of the time people, don't make it this, but it can be a really introspective journey of learning about yourself.
Yeah, it's important also to work with in terms of mental health after Survivor, because that's a whole different experience and you're in a whole different world and a whole different journey. But I have a question, because I saw something on your Instagram page about you going on a journey of your own to Nepal. For meditation. How did that go? What did you learn in the process of that silence that you had to go through, and then you had to learn how to talk again or something? Can you explain more about what your experience was in Nepal?
Yeah. So yeah, that was my first really long retreat. And it was a 1 month retreat that I did at a monastery in Nepal with a monk and a nun who were guiding me and teaching me. Wow. And so it was, like I wanted to go because meditation cultures are different everywhere in the world. Like, I don't know what it's like in the Philippines, if there's anything in the Philippines, but in the US, it's very intertwined with like the New Age movement and the retreats just have a certain culture, and then in Nepal, it's a lot more serious. And so like in the US, people talk about enlightenment as like some unrealistic thing that is just kind of like a pie in the sky idea. In Nepal, I went there and they were like, yeah, this is a very normal thing that happens for people. Like if you work really hard, if you meditate, you know, you can gain insight. And they talked about it as a very real thing. So I thought it was valuable to go to that, have that different experience. It was really intense. It was really, really intense. Like if you cry, you get kicked out of the retreat.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. If you break the silence, you could get kicked out of the retreat. You have to be, you know, very disciplined.
Wow.
Yeah. And it's very hardcore. And ultimately, like I didn't get out of it what I was hoping, but it was a really worthwhile experience just to meditate in a completely different culture and to have that really disciplined approach. I didn't completely forget how to talk. I forgot how to talk more this past fall. I went on a 3-month retreat in the United States. And that really, like, when I finished with that, it was like, it took a while to get back to talking and socializing.
You know, I feel like here in the Philippines, meditation kind of coexists with religion for a lot of people, because growing up, like in high school, in college, you know, we would be given retreats and like these situations where we would have to, meditate, stop talking, just reflect on our lives and all that. But it's really not like a personal journey, because it's something that's, you know, that's just being assigned to you. Like you have to go on this retreat, you have to do this. So it's just
I was about to say, Hazel, is there like, I was about to ask, is there a difference, you know, with prayer and meditation? Can you be praying and meditating at the same time, or is it not possible?
Oh, well, I mean, meditation is so many different things. So that's why I think a lot of the confusion comes up, because like you said, Hazel, like meditation in a lot of settings is just a religious, act or maybe a ritual. And then for other people, like it's very secular in the United States, so it's not very religious. And then prayer is, you know, closely related to meditation. And I think prayer is meditative. You're tapping into a lot of the same stuff. But yeah, like there are so many different forms of meditation. So when I meditate, I'm not exactly praying, but you might have a mantra. You might, for example, practice loving kindness meditation. Like Chico, we practiced one time, wishing all beings to be happy. You know, may all beings be happy, may all beings be peaceful and healthy. And there's something a little prayer-like about that, even though it's not like you're praying to a specific God, you know?
It's quite interesting because sorry, Chico.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. Oh yeah. Sorry. It's very interesting because I have delved into a little bit of meditation, but it's through Reiki.
Yeah,
I have a
Reiki when I was backstage. Yeah. It's interesting.
Yeah. So I have a Reiki instructor who she's been with me through metaphysics. She starts off with a Reiki session, and then we write down who we want to forgive and who we want to forgive, and let it go and put it into a box and just try to get into this state where we forgive everything and our world is in a positive state. And then after we do a little bit of regression therapy. Do you do that as well in your forms of meditation?
No, I'm curious about it though.
Yeah, where we explore previous lives, but it's through just her asking questions and me responding and asking us to go into a door, figuring out what we looked like in this previous life or whatever it is, a figurative previous life it could be. Yeah. So it's a whole different form of meditative therapy.
So have you uncovered previous lives?
Yes, I've uncovered a few.
Yeah.
One, I was in ancient Egypt. I was a concubine, and the only thing you remember is where you are, where you're killed, or the first time you die, and a pharaoh threw me out of the window. A second life, I was a dog. A third life, I was an emperor in Japan or something, but I was an evil emperor. So it's all of these small little things that you learn in past lives that karma kind of transcends that, and in your future life you could be accountable for a karma in a past life. But that was regression therapy. I don't know what you I want to know more about how you meditate and what you have learned throughout your process.
Sure. Yeah. Well, that's really interesting. Like karma is such an interesting topic because I know Buddhism is really big as well.
Yes.
But it's like karma is so complicated, and I feel like we have like a really simplistic idea of like what goes around comes around. But like in Buddhism, it's very much just the idea that thought and action proliferate. That, you know, what you think on is going to influence what you say and the actions in the world, and then that's going to influence further actions in the world. So it's like every decision and every moment has an impact on the future. That's the way I think about karma. And so, you know, my meditation is mindfulness meditation practice and also Vipassana, so insight meditation.
Yes.
And it's inspired by many sources. Like I've done retreats in the tradition of this guy S.N. Goenka, and then I took a lot of inspiration from this Burmese monk, Mahasi Sayadaw. But basically, the idea of mindfulness is just looking into what's going on in the mind, what's going on in every moment, in the present moment, and, you know, bringing awareness to it. Because, like, you know, there's the idea of like the conscious mind and the subconscious mind. And a lot of what we do is based on the subconscious mind. Like what's going on under the surface is driving a lot of what we do, even without our awareness. So like we have like an impulse to do something, and so we do that thing, but we don't know where that impulse came from. And it could be based on a lot of like emotional schemas and things going on like beneath the surface. And so meditation starts to dissolve that boundary with mindfulness, just paying attention to what's happening, you know, paying attention to every moment, what the experience is, and seeing some of that stuff under the surface. So then you can, you know, if there's a pattern that is, you know, for me, I had a lot of patterns that were causing unhappiness. Like I would have a pattern of insecurity, for example, where like if I hear laughter, there's a part of me under the surface that thinks, oh, it must be about me. They must be making fun of me. And then, you know, something comes from that. And previously, I wasn't aware of the whole thing going on under the surface. And then, you know, I meditated a while and started to see the pattern, and then I can drop the pattern. So it's all about bringing awareness to what's going on. And our motivations are so complicated that it's still, you know, there's always more learning.
It's about self-awareness, no? And calming the anxiety demons. Because I'm sure a lot of us, especially now during the COVID crisis, are experiencing all forms of anxiety. So I think what you and Chico are doing are perfect for like calming your nerves, because Chico has moments also. He a lot. I mean,
it's anxious? No way.
everyone has, you know, he's a wreck, especially when we drive.
He's a wreck.
Wow.
Okay. Oh wow.
A wreck.
A revelation.
He could be a nervous. He could be a nervous wreck when, for example, we're driving and I do something bad because I'm not exactly the best driver, and he'll, you know, his anxiety will kick in. Now he's a little bit, you know, he's calmed.
Actually, we'd like to thank you, Spencer, because we feel very responsible for triggering a lot of Chico's anxiety attacks by, like, you know, revealing his secrets on air and saying stuff we're not supposed to say.
The Morning Rush. The Morning Rush. The landmark morning radio program on Philippine FM radio. Winner of multiple KBP Golden Dove Awards for Best Radio Comedy Program. Monday to Friday, 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. only on Manila's hottest Monster RX93.1.